Listen, Mets fans, we have been saying this for weeks upon weeks on end, but just to reaffirm yet again, this team is beyond cooked. The last time that this New York Metropolitan baseball team came out with competent, consistent baseball is going all the way back to early June. Since June 13th, the Mets have been one of the worst teams in baseball, and nothing about that has changed whatsoever. The only thing that we had over the past 2 weeks is fool's gold that we call a 3-game series sweep against these Phillies there at home at Citi Field. Since then, the Mets won that series against the Tigers, have had nothing to show otherwise. They have rolled over and died every single ball game here in Philadelphia and dropped the series, not finale, but game 3 of 4 here in this series by an absurd final score of 11-3. I'm not going to ask you Mets fans how you're doing today because I already know the answer to that. You're doing down horrendous. I'm down horrendous. Even with all the writing on the wall to insinuate that this Mets team simply is not good, they have been bad for an extended period of time now. We have been beating this drum for 2.5, if not 3 months now. But even then, knowing that this team is still 2 games afloat in the wild card race, knowing that they are not out of the playoff picture is why we have to be locked in, whether we want it or not, on a day-to-day, nightly basis. Maybe not some of you guys, but for me, as someone who is a diehard fan who covers this team for a living on a daily basis, I have to be locked in. And I don't know how I am getting through these ball games right now because I'm getting set to pull all the rest of my hair out and just tell you how I'm feeling as a Mets fan, because we are all down horrendous, as I mentioned, as the Mets drop this one by an absurd final score of 11-3. We're going to get into your comments, reactions, and everything in between, your stress level, your frustration level, and ultimately what can be had, if at all, for this Mets team with just around 2 or so weeks to spare here before the end of the season. Is this Mets team going to make playoffs? We have that question in the poll for you guys to check out in the live show right now, but one of the answers I have is playoffs, like laughing, thinking about the OG, if you know, you know. Playoffs? What do you mean playoffs? Because that's how I feel as a Mets fan. What is one single thing not named Juan Soto about this Mets club giving you guys confidence and still to say that this team is playoff caliber? There is little to nothing that is playoff caliber about this Mets team. As much as their offense can be red hot and we know it, they also can be ice cold and we know it, as the Mets have now dropped 5 consecutive ball games. And don't worry, the pitching has certainly not helped in many facets throughout this losing stretch, but at the same time, Jonathan kept you in the ball game. Brandon Sproat kept you in the ball game. Noel McLean kept you in the ball game. Clay Holmes, up until that final inning in the 5th, was keeping you relatively in the ball game. The point stands when the Mets are giving up these early runs, regardless on how their starter fares from that point on. They have been rolling over and dying. This Mets team on the road that has plagued them all season long. They have played such incompetent baseball on the road was prevalent yet again in this one, as the Mets, I believe, are 11 games or so below 500 on the road this year? They're dreadful. They have been dominant at home, yes, but they've also had so many boneheaded series losses at home, whether it's dropping that series to the Tampa Bay Rays that unraveled everything mid-June, or it's their most recent series loss 3 games out of 4 to the Miami Marlins. The point stands, nothing about this team is yet again consistent, and nothing, and I truly mean nothing about this Mets team has us instilled with confidence like they're going to go out and do anything whatsoever. We're going to recap in a summarized fashion as to what went wrong for this Mets team tonight, but let me simplify it for each and every one of you watching live right here, right now, as you guys hit that like and subscribe on your way in. Do not hold back from telling me how you're feeling. I gotta know how you guys are feeling, how you're venting, because we are all on the same page here, Mets fans. I'm feeling down horrendous. I'm sick to my stomach. I need not just one, I need an entire bottle of Tums right now, yesterday, mind you, because I cannot get over the realization, even though we've seen the writing on the wall for so long, that there are just so many things about this Mets team that are not good, all in the same year that they are somehow the best base running team in baseball while being also the slowest team in baseball. Juan Soto's going to have a 40, 30, 100, 100 season, and we're going to have nothing to show for it. Why, you might ask? Because Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, and Kodai Senga step right up and meet the Mets veterans have absolutely nothing to give you. It has been north of 2 effing months that every single one of those veteran starters, with the exception of Peterson, even though he has not been good, he has an ERA well over 4 that we've seen over the past month and a half or so. He has not been getting the job done, but the bar's been so low that when you're getting at least 5 innings of 2-run baseball out of Peterson, you're going to take that because you're getting nothing else from your key veterans. Sean Manaea not being on the injured list yet is beyond me. The fact that Kodai Senga, we have yet to really find out anything with him if he's going to look good in his minor league assignment is yet to be seen. Clay Holmes, even when he's looking solid, is always a mess in the 5th inning. Can't get out of his own mess. He is not trusted, and that's why Mendy pulls him on not even 80 pitchers or so. There are just so many factors as to why the Mets continue to falter on a nightly basis, and we have been seeing this writing for so long now that at the point where I'm not going to sit here and just yell and yap my head off this entire next ensuing hour. No, we're going to break down more on the brass tacks of the numbers here and what has been so wrong with this Mets team, and again, why. If you're a Mets fan right now, if your frustration level is not at a 9, if your concern level is not north of a 10, I'm genuinely surprised. It either means A, you have tapped out as a Mets fan, you think that this season is long and gone, and or B, you just don't really know what to do. You're numb at this point. It's like win, lose, or draw. You're just going to take it to the chin because that's what you're going to do as a Mets fan. Casey with a $10 holla. Thank you so much for that, Casey. I appreciate that. Not going to stay long. 2 notes. 1, 5 losses with 0 leads. 2, pay attention to Stearns' Mendy's actions and quotes from here on out. Forget the players. Watch Stearns and Mendoza. It will tell everything. It will tell everything. Absolutely how this team operates. And that's why we're always not micromanaging, but really locked in as to the comments of guys like Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns makes, especially now. Mendy's going to give you more probably the same cookie cutter answers. If he gives you something different, that's the only way of knowing that there's going to maybe be a change to more of the rotation, what have you. So we will wait and see what happens with Mendy post-game today, if there's anything notable, everybody. But let me just start off by saying that the simple fact that the Mets went on to be the father of this Philadelphia Phillies team 2 weeks ago at Citi Field to play dreadful baseball for the most part since, to get curb stomped with their mouth on the curb as we speak, that being this Mets team. If you know, you know, and the Phillies just stomp with that big boot without a problem. And that is what happens when a Phillies team makes proper acquisitions for the vibes at the deadline. You see what the Mets didn't do? They didn't add anyone for the vibes. Cedric Mullins is the opposite of vibes. This bullpen has not gotten the job done as much as we would have hoped to this point. No adds to this rotation is clearly a glaring issue, regardless on how expensive those starters were leading up to said deadline. The point stands, everybody. Not only are the Phillies a Mets daddy right now, which makes me want to throw up, but every Phillies fans chiming in, congratulations, take your victory lap. Again, have your little cookie. I understand that this is your time to shine. The same way that I talk smack as much as I do is the same way that I got to take it when the Mets play dreadful baseball the way that they most certainly have entering this series and now in this series. Harrison Bader's batting over 600 against the Mets this season. Are you kidding me? And the main reason why is because he's been swinging the bat faster and harder, far greater than what we saw last year. Would have been nice to have a Harrison Bader that knew how to competently hit a baseball down the stretch last year instead of losing his job to Tyrone Taylor completely, where he was a non-factor down the stretch heading into postseason play. Fast forward a year later, the Mets have been in need of that stability in center field with Jose Siri out all year with injury up until the past couple days. Tyrone Taylor not being able to hit a beach ball for 2 effing months. And now you mean to tell me that Drew Gilbert is balling out for the Giants and giving them great vibes because he's a madman in the clubhouse? Now you mean to tell me that Harrison Bader is just looking like a more polished version of what the Mets were hoping to have a year ago? Everything about this team, from how the Mets entered the 2025 season, is coming back to smack them across the face. And while the players are most certainly to blame, and we're going to get into all of them in this one, don't you guys worry about it. We're going to break it down here shortly. Let's also call it how it is. David Stearns, and I like David a lot. I'm not here to rag on him with everything, but this season has been nothing short of an absolute failure. With Juan Soto, who is single-handedly carrying right now, mind you. Without him, who knows where this Mets team is? They probably are not even at 500 baseball right now. Soto has a 6-4 season right now, so when you really bear it in mind, a Mets team 6 games above 500, they would be right around a 500 baseball club without Juan Soto in their lap at this very moment. And when you say say to yourself, outside of Juan Soto, what has been good about this Mets team this season? The answer is none. Outside of the Noah McLeans, the Jonathans, the Brandon Sproats, the present, the future of this rotation, there is nothing to be happy about with bringing back Jesse Winker, Jose Siri. Siri was out majority of the year. Great that he's back now, but it feels like it's too little too late. Jesse Winker's been out since he made one effing play in the outfield and a doubleheader against the Cardinals, which still pisses me off because of how much I know he was a positive implementation for this team, both on the field, but most certainly off the field. You add in all the other aspects of the guys that were supposed to click in the bullpen that didn't, the early goings of the Huasca Bros bands that fell apart yet again, Paul Blackburn never being a factor for you, the endless laundry list of injuries, as I mentioned, from Kodai Senga getting injured and never looking the same, Tyler McGill getting second opinions on an elbow because you know he's cooked right now, Griffin Canning rupturing his Achilles after what was a rock-solid first half of baseball, and the list goes on and on. David Peterson pitching baseball a 5.6 ERA over the past month and a half or so. You look at Clay Holmes, a 5 and dive that's had an ERA around 4.5 that we've seen over his past 5+ starts. Kodai Senga against Sean Manaea, meatballs, batting practice. I don't care that Sean can go 5 effing innings. What's the same exact outcome every 4th or 5th day out there? Enough is enough. And the problem is, you've already called up McLean. You've already called up Sproat. You've already called up Ton. Those guys have not even shown you their ability to consistently give you length, especially Ton, and what we will see more of potentially in Sproat. But the point stands. You are still in dire need of more pitching help. Why are we piggybacking guys yet? I get it, the formula in postseasons and have a starter ready for 4 or so innings and then go from there. But why not start that now? Why, instead of having it where we have a guy like Justin Hageman thrown out there for more than 1 inning because you know Mendoza's waving that white flag a day ago, why do we have to go down that route when there's an alternative, a competent alternative, in which you actually have some of your starters already set up in a playoff format? Meaning, you go to a 5-man rotation and you utilize the bums that have not gotten the job done as of late, and this is not a personal slight on them. I don't have any ill will with the following guys. They just have not been good much at all the past north of 2 months. Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes. If it ain't going to be Kodai Senga, if he's not getting the call yet for this Mets team, then we have to, at minimum, talk about the other factors here. Manaea, Holmes, what do they have in common? Guys that can eat innings for you in increments, but not in length. So, oh my God, it's almost like it makes sense to maybe throw them in a circumstance where they are then utilized and a piggyback circumstance after Ton maybe only goes 4.5, maybe 5 for you. And I say this knowing that Ton still gave the Mets 6+ innings of work and a 4 earned run, 3-hit outing in Cincy against the Reds. The kids have gotten the job done in probably more ways than one. They haven't been perfect, but they're not the liability. The liability is a Mets offense that doesn't know how to get a spark going when they're down early runs, and a Mets pitching staff headlined by the veterans that yet again prove to you how much this was not only a flawed rotation, but how much this failed for David Stearns entering year 2 as president of baseball operations. Two things can be true at the same time, folks. You can appreciate some things that David Stearns has done while also being beyond frustrated with the now and everything that's went wrong. I know that David cannot single-handedly impact injuries, things that are inevitable and out of his hands, but when you know there are track records of player, i.e. Frankie Montas, the most obvious example of a guy who's been broke in the past 4 years more than likely, yet you still give him 2 years of $30+ million just for him to never pitch a game for the Mets again, and his lasting memories are north of a 7 ERA while looking dog water almost every single time out there. When you look at Clay Holmes, you're stretching him as a starter for the first time. Clay has not been a massive liability, but what has he done to really help this team? I think we can all agree he's provided little to nothing throughout the majority of the season. Sean Manaea, you take that risk of a guy that looked great in the second half making an arm slot change, and while I was in favor of the signing then, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it, in hindsight, looking back on it, the Mets obviously have a guy that needs surgery with that loose body in his elbow, and it looks like it's going to get from bad to worse before things even get better for the Simone Southpaw. So say what you will about what David has done right in the organization over the past 2 years, because he has done things right. There is no doubt about it, especially when you look at player development, scouting, drafting, etc. But when it comes to actually making in-season adjustments, in-season changes, Holy conservative. My goodness, my God, my gracious. David Stearns, you sat on your hands more ways than one in the first half when there was not a justified reason to. You couldn't say to yourself that, oh, we had all the answers pitching-wise, because we didn't. Because you waited so long to consider the kids. You waited until the Mets have basically boxed themselves out of even considering winning the division, and now we're just trying to stay afloat in the wild card right now, mind you. When we take a look at the wild card standings, if it isn't for the Giants dropping today's ball game, the Mets would still only be up by 1.5 games. Thankfully, they're still up 2, but this is pathetic. This is a Mets team that was 21 games above 500, yet it feels like it was a decade ago. I can't even fathom how it was like when the Mets were 21 games above 500. It didn't feel real at the time. It honestly kind of felt like that this was supposed to be the norm. Shame on me for ever thinking that that was supposed to be the case, because the norm is the facts. The Mets over their past north of 80 games have played absolutely horrendous baseball. The Mets have had a record of over 10 games below 500 since mid-June. It is September 10th, everybody. We are going on June to July, July to August, August to December. 3 full months of incompetent baseball. Yet I still get people in my comments that say, Wardy, you're going too harsh on the team. Why are you being like this? You're supposed to be the big optimist. You're supposed to be the guy that's giving the benefit of the doubt every single time. I have done that day after day, night after night, but I'm going to call it how it is. When it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, damn it, it's a duck. What I'm trying to say is when it looks like crap and it plays like crap, wow, color me shocked, it's crap. And that has been the story of this 2025 Mets season. I'm not happy to say that. I wish I could come out here and tell you guys a different thing. I wish I could come out here and tell you guys how the Mets have instilled confidence in how they're going to get things right. The only thing that I can say to you guys right now that is a positive is that A, somehow, some way, this team is still in a playoff spot. B, regardless of how much this team scuffles, if they just get in, anything can happen. And C, you do still have a lot of talent in this organization and on this roster. It's just about putting it together. But by God, we've been saying this nonsense since June. It's September. We've been saying this for 3 months in a row. I'm going to get blue in the face by just beating the same effing drum and saying the same nonsense to the thousands of you Mets fans on a nightly basis and to the emphatic Phillies fans right now that, again, make me sick, but talk your talk, walk your walk. You guys absolutely curb stomped us. There's nothing I can do other than tip my cap and say that I'm sorry for ever thinking that the Phillies wouldn't be the Mets' daddy, but in my defense, we've been your father for what feels like at least north of 3 years now. So shame on me for finally thinking, oh, we're going to get more of the same. The Mets are going to be the Phillies' daddies. It comes down to home field advantage. And the Mets' problem, they're not as good as the Phillies at home. The Phillies are the best team in baseball at home, mind you. This Mets team has been floundering that we've seen at home over the past 2 months throughout the remainder of summer. And a Mets team, again, on the road, dreadful. One of the worst in baseball. 10 plus games below 500. They have not played good baseball even against teams below 500. And this talk about, oh, they play up to their competition, they play down their competition, I just think they're rolling over and dying right now, is what I'm thinking. Because enough about, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. There is nothing about them, even in their winning and losing ways, that is consistent. This has been the most sporadic, the most nonsensical, and one of the more frustrating seasons that I've ever covered as a fan, because you've had the lofty expectations, and they have not even gotten close to meeting. It's one thing to have playoff expectations heading into a season. It's another thing to have World Series expectations after this Mets team went 2 games shy of the dance that we just saw a year ago. For them to exceed expectations and then some to the degree that they did, and then to sign Juan Soto, and then to basically run it back with everybody but the vibes. And I know, I'm not saying that Jose Iglesias would have been the key X factor this season, but the Mets have not had vibes all year long. Francisco Lindor, we love him, has not brought the vibes like he has brought in seasons past. This core group has not brought the vibes like we have seen in years past. And I know you might say, Wardy, why are you even mentioning vibes and aura? It's stupid. You can't measure that. I think you kind of can, because you can measure these things by making trade deadline acquisitions of more extroverted personalities. The way that Harrison Bader, an extroverted personality, a great guy for that Phillies clubhouse. He's helping them in more ways than one, more than just the on-field product. When you look at what you're getting in Drew Gilbert, for example, who's doing very solid with the Giants here. I'm not really missing Drew. I understood why the trade happened. Carson Bench is the future of this Mets outfield, and I will stand by that wholeheartedly. But in that same breath, we can all agree that Drew Gilbert was always a buzzsaw, always had that extrovert personality. And one way or another, whether you like it or not, he has 1,000% been a key factor in the Giants' continued success that they've had, regardless of their faltering defeat that we saw tonight. The point stands, everybody. When you don't have vibes, when you don't have the so-called aura, as the kids are saying nowadays, you're not going to get far. Because we have seen so many talented teams year after year, regardless if they're Mets or if they are an opposing team like the Yankees, like the Phillies, what have you. If you do not have the flow, if you do not have what feels like a really tight-knit group when it comes to a clubhouse, because while I do think the Mets are tight-knit, I do feel that there's a bit more division potentially going on than last year. Maybe I'm completely wrong for saying that, but I'm just trying to figure out answers at this point, the same way that I know this Mets team is certainly trying to on the fly right now. So in my evaluation, my opinion as a fan, there have been things off this year versus last year. And the most glaring thing that has been off is the vibes and the kind of personality that we've seen from this collective core group of a Mets team. They have not been the same. They have not been a team that has you thinking that, oh yeah, they're the Rally Kings. They're going to come out and make sure that they play hard until the final out. This team has rolled over and died in more ways than one in countless games this season. And that is exactly why Eric Chavez, I hope you see this right now, Eric, I'm going to continue to yap about you because it's a fact. 3 weeks of playing red-hot offensive baseball does not take away from the vast majority of the season of playing dog shit baseball. And newsflash, buddy, we're back to playing dog you-know-what baseball. So why don't you enlighten me, Mr. Chavez, Jeremy Barnes, this Mets coaching staff, for all the ones that are going to go out of their way to talk down on fans that are rightfully bothered by inconsistent, incompetent play from one of the largest payrolls, if not the largest payroll in baseball, and the largest market in this country when it comes to sports, mind you. God forbid that a fan gives you a little pushback for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're making just being competent at the one job that you're tasked to do. It's almost like this Mets team meeting expectations, far from it. And this was the greatest concern heading into this season. How could this Mets team handle expectations? Remember, everybody, let's start from the top. 2021, first year under Steve Cohen. The roster was not overly playoff caliber, but you had cautious optimism. McNeil, Conforto, others go down early with injury. Lindor has his oblique there that we've seen this summer in Pittsburgh. DeGrom deals with ailments, and the Mets get nowhere. 2022, you're hoping for playoffs. You exceed expectation. You're the best team in all of baseball in the first half. You get 101 wins, but you roll over and die because you cannot handle the expectation. You play around 500 baseball in the easiest month of schedule that you had in the month of August, the easiest strength of schedule in all of baseball throughout that stretch, mind you, and you could not handle playing down to you did play down competition, is exactly what you did. You roll over, you get swept in Atlanta, and you roll over and die at Citi Field in a 3-game set against the Padres. 2023, expectation is to make playoffs. Justin Verlander comes in. Max Scherzer's in for a year or two. Try to not be a batting practice the way that he was in postseason play. Scherzer's down with injury. Verlander's down with injury. This Mets offense is god-awful, putrid. Nothing about it looks like it's going to be a strength, and they're big sellers at the deadline. 2024, the Mets are 5 games below 500 begin the season. They are 11 games below 500 getting into the month of May or so. A team that looks like they have no chance of making playoffs exceeds all expectations, and you want to know how they exceed season expectations? They did it while having no expectations. When JD Martinez said to the boys, everybody thinks we suck, let's go out and prove them that we don't suck. JD Martinez talking in Carlos Mendoza's ear and saying, you should consider calling up Jose Iglesias. He is a Swiss Army knife and he can be a spark plug. He brings the vibes. What does Mendy do? He listens to his veteran slugger that'll be a future Hall of Famer, and he brings up Jose Iglesias. And between JD's mentorship and Jose's spark, between the OMG and just the great gritty baseball, to have a headfirst dive to first base just to get safe there late in ball games for a rally, that is what the Mets rallied around. A Francisco Lindor that decided to be Mr. MVP from June on last year. There were so many reasons as to why the Mets were cooking a season ago. 2025, a Mets team not only with expectations to make playoffs, but to make World Series or close to. And as the surprise surprise to absolutely nobody is yet again another season where this Mets team has no clue how to handle said expectation. They don't know. They've never been able to handle this expectation. There's been nothing about this core group that's been able to handle this expectation. Season victories are good and all, but we want to see what you do come postseason play. And how did the Mets get as far as they did last year? It was based off tremendous team morale and vibes. It was based off a first-year manager that really rallied the club around, a Francisco Lindor that played MVP caliber baseball, but most importantly, a team that defied the odds and started to beat up on clubs when everyone doubted them. 11 games below 500. No one cares anymore. Everyone thinks that you're down and out when you're only a month and a half in the season. The Mets proved everybody and their mother wrong, and they have themselves to thank for that. But because of that, that is what set the stage for this season. And this season has been nothing short of a shit show. It has been dreadful to cover it. It's been dreadful to watch it. It's been dreadful to have to deal with this on a daily basis because it's a 162. I'm not looking forward to the next 2 weeks of baseball. There's a lot of Mets fans that are in the contingent of, we want to see this team make playoffs, but nothing about this team deserves to make playoffs, so you're tired of watching them. I'm getting my diehard followers in the chat just to chime in and donate because they're trying to support the platform, because otherwise they're not tapped into the Mets at all right now. They're fed up with the team. And to all of them, I don't blame any of you guys whatsoever. I know that we're like 25 minutes into this, but shout out to our amazing sponsors at SeatGeek that have you covered for all of your ticketing needs. Utilize our promo code WARDY10. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase. Do not spend it on the Mets. Get NFL tickets. Get NHL tickets with the season right around the corner. Get concert show tickets, comedy show tickets. Spend your dollars wisely with our great friends at SeatGeek with over 70,000 active events to choose from. They are the number one rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason. And use my promo code WARDY10 link down below for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Keith, thank you so much for the donation. Keith says with a $5 holla, I think they still make the playoffs, and not because I have confidence in them. It's that the other teams are worse. Not a good place to be at $360 million. 100%. The Mets also strength of schedule-wise have on paper an easier schedule than, say, the Giants and the Reds, Diamondbacks to a degree. But strength of schedule means nothing now when the Mets are rolling over and dying, regardless on who they're playing this season. Scott with the $5 holla. Thank you so much for that, Scott. Is there anything to be confident about anymore? Nolan McLean, Juan Soto, that's about it. I really can't find too much else that should instill confidence based on consistency. Everything else has been inconsistency with this Mets team, and this is what has plagued them for literally the entire effing season since going back to pretty much the beginning of June. And what is the commonality that we have seen since the beginning of June, everybody? The commonality is that since the beginning of June is when we saw Kodai Senga go down with injury. It's when we saw Sean Manaea still working his way back. It's when we saw Frankie Montas now about to approach the return and looking horrendous in rehab and still being useless. It's Tyler McGill going down with injury and now looking like he's going to be down for the season comfortably. You look at Griffin Canning going down with injury. It was one domino after another, and after another. And the final thing I'll say on this, because I'm not going to beat this drum too much because I say all the time, but the Mets had their opportunities to consider being more aggressive with the kids. They had opportunities to consider being aggressive for trades before the deadline for just veteran starters that can keep them afloat. Yet instead of doing anything of that, they settled with spot starter options, played well below 500 during that stretch, and now coloring me shocked, we sit here today just 6 games above 500 after the Mets continued to play scuffling baseball against a red-hot Phillies team that obviously, for a great reason, for their own reasons, is trying to pummel the Mets to their absolute greatest abilities. Zach with a $5 holla. The important question is, does Stearns develop any change in his approach, or does it all get chalked up to injuries, and that's baseball, it happens? It's a great question, but you have to imagine that Stearns mixes the approach up a little bit, because we cannot go another season of David Stearns continuing with these reclamation projects and these short-term solutions as if they're going to be something greater than what they are. Again, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, damn it, it's a duck. And when the Mets bring in a lot of, again, fringe-worthy type players to be something greater, it's not shocking that they don't meet that expectation. That is where he needs to properly evaluate. That's where he needs to be cognizant of the players we have internally in this farm to utilize heading into 2026, because the Mets have a lot of great farm talent that I'm so excited to see, including more of these great dominant arms. But having said that, we need to see an adjustment by Ty Stearns. Because as of now, should the Mets actually not make playoffs, if they really do continue to scuffle and lose a spot to the Giants, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, who have you, we will see changes this offseason. And they might be drastic. It will start with the head of Eric Chavez and or Jeremy Barnes. I'll be jaw-dropped. I'll be shocked. I will give away a $100 gift card on the platform if Eric Chavez is not fired this offseason. I promise it. Clip this to everybody. I will give away a $100 Visa gift card here on WardyNYM if Eric Chavez is still the Mets hitting coach that we see heading into the 2026 season. My confidence in that man parting ways with the organization that we would see, I would say, the first month or two into the offseason, should the Mets not make playoffs, is unbelievably high. I also think that even if the Mets make playoffs but get bounced rather quickly, that we're going to see that same exact result. I think the Mets need to make a change. These are not David Stearns' hires, and while David has not been great with all of his hires to this point in signings, it is still his organization to run. It is still his team to obviously lead, and to have Barnes and to have Chavez, guys who have been here in retreads from previous organizations, it's almost like it might be time to make a change there. The same way that, as much as I like a lot of aspects about Jeremy Hefner, I don't think that he is a great problem for this team. I also am left wondering, where is Hefner not doing enough for this club that we are seeing this rotation not get the job done? Where is Hefner not able to make the adjustments that we're hoping for these starters? How much is his hands tied? How much can he impact versus not impact? I know he does not have a say in player injuries. He can't help that when it comes to this rotation, but he most certainly can obviously have a say in some of the veterans just playing inconsistent baseball. What is not getting through to Sean Manaea, as he looks like a shell of himself, completely lacking confidence that he's hoping to build off of a rock-solid final couple innings from what was still a bad start that we saw against the Phillies just a day ago. You really have to wonder and sit back and reflect about every aspect of this organization yet again for a Steve Cohen offseason. You want to know who's more fed up about this than anyone else when it comes to losing, when it comes to spending hundreds of millions of dollars just to put out a shit baseball club? It's Mets owner Steve Cohen. I promise you, I assure you that there's no one more bothered and more fed up and more disgruntled than Steve right now. And I'm sure that he himself is just trying to fathom, how can this organization get right? I'm sure he's as cautiously optimistic as any fan heading into potentially postseason play. And I think Steve knows just as much as we know that this team has not looked good for the vast majority of the season. And speaking of not looking good, step right up and meet the Mets today with their pitching staff. Clay Holmes, 4 earned runs allowed across 4 innings. And that went in hand because Gregory Soto came in and had far and away his worst outing as a New York Met. I like Gregory Soto a lot, but he proved yet again his inability to keep things relatively close for the Mets when dealing with inherited runners. He's horrendous with inherited runners. He gave up a base hit that led to a run as soon as he came in the ballgame for Clay Holmes. He then allowed bases loaded and gave up a total of 4 effing earned runs and 1.1 innings today. Ryan Stanek was looking good until he gave up a bomb to Bryce Harper, so I'm not going to complain much about Ryan today. He was the best option out of the measly options here. Ryan Helsley, step right up and let's start tipping pitches again. I'm sorry, guys. The reason why Helsley did not do anything good today is because I wasn't in attendance. Helsley's only had 3 good outings for the Mets this season. Now, I've been in attendance for every single one somehow, some way. So the pitching incompetent, they get a fat 0 out of 10 collectively. I hated everything about the Mets pitching staff today. Not a single thing that I liked about Clay Holmes. He has bases loaded and the first inning allows a pair of runs. Why don't I just step right off and I'm not going to say what I'm going to say because I was going to say something pretty out of pocket. But you guys can catch my drift here. I'm getting unhinged. I'm getting to my boiling point. I'm just getting to my point of just being so fed up and exhausted and tired of talking about this godforsaken team on a nightly basis, expecting something to be different when the writing has been on the wall since June. Nothing has changed. No one's erased it. Only people have done is outline it more and more with a heavier Sharpie that we've seen on the wall. We're 100 layers in. There's no way you can miss it. What it says is the Mets are not good. I would love it if the Mets could be good, but no one is going out of their way to try to erase the writing that's been on the wall for 3 effing months now. So that's the pitching staff for you. Whoop de effing do, Basil. We're all excited, said nobody. Then you bring in a Mets offense that rolls over and dies for another day. This is how the lineup ended. In case you're wondering why is Mauricio in leadoff, that's because he came in for Lindor later in this ball game. Lindor had nothing to provide, and as I've told you guys all season season long. Lindor has been dreadful on the road. He's been dog water on the road, and that's a problem. This Mets team, this Mets offense lives and dies through Francisco Lindor. Whether it's for right or wrong reason, for better or for worse, that is how this team operates. And folks, Lindor has not been there for the vast majority of this season on the road. That's kind of a problem when you play 80 effing games on the road every effing season. So Lindor, nothing to show. That's a problem. Juan Soto was a triple away from hitting the cycle today. Buddy had himself a double that just missed for a home run that had fan interference. I felt bad. The fan got kicked out of the seat. I didn't really think he did anything wrong. I think out of all times where fans at fault, that really didn't feel like he did anything egregious here. So I'm feeling for that actually, Philly fan for a second. But you get into Juan Soto had a brilliant day. Had his 31st stolen bag of the year. It doesn't matter though. It's Juan Soto today when it comes to the offensive output because he's the only man who gave a rat's you know what today. Marte brought him in that we saw with a single that we got him in from third base somehow, some way. But Marte's still been very underwhelming. I've not been overly encouraged. I did appreciate that RBI, but I'm still very frustrated with some of these Marte at-bats. Nimmo, lower in the order, not looking good at all. Hayden Sanger, pinch hit God later on. Why? Because of course he is. Cedric Mullins comes in, gets himself a single today, and had himself a walk, but it didn't come until the 9th inning in the single, so does it really matter? Brett the Hitman does more of the same as advertised, because again, Beatty has been rock solid for 2.5, 3 months now. But in similarity to Lindor, Brett Beatty, too, has had his fair struggles that we have seen on the road throughout the course of the season. And what we talk about struggles on the road, everybody, this is not everything. This is not the end-all be-all in the sense of how the Mets have had the struggles to the point that they've had to this great degree. However, it is a factor, and I want to talk about it with each and every one of you. Because as we pull up Francisco Lindor's numbers right now, everybody, let me show you where he's at from his home-to-road splits right now. Last time I checked was north of a month ago. North of a month ago, they were horrendous. I can't imagine things have changed all that much for the better, but let's go ahead and find out. At home, we have seen, what do we see? Francisco Lindor is batting .315 with .376 on base and a .538 slug, good for a .914 OPS. On the road, Francisco Lindor, a shell of himself, a .213 average, a .302 on base, a .369 slug for a .671 OPS. That is good currently, based on, let me make sure I have this number proper here, that I don't have it off. When looking at this, everybody, just to give you an idea, his OPS plus is well below league average. He's 20, if not 30% below league average in that regard. Offensively, he's at least 30% above league average at home. So to show the glaring difference, you go from a well above league average hitter to a well below league average hitter, all based on if you're home and away. That is a major problem when this Mets offense lives and dies through Lindor, leading off and carrying the way with this offense. This goes in direct hand with why the Mets have rolled over and died that we have seen countless times on the road this year, because a guy like Lindor, to not be that plate setter, to not be the guy that we saw him be so often last year, is what makes this 10 times more frustrating than what it currently is. Because if the Mets got Lindor and his consistent product, this team would be in greater standing offensively. If the Mets had competency and the rotation whatsoever, then we would be talking about why the Mets rotation is not the glaring issue right now and how it is solely the offense. That is not the case. It is a collective effort for this shit show right now, folks. And I do apologize for the profanity. I do my best not to have that chime in, but sometimes it just has to get out there when I'm beyond fed up, because I'm beyond fed up, as I mentioned countless times, with this New York Mets team. And speaking of this New York Mets team, just to quickly highlight how horrendous of a ball game this was, everybody, Harrison Bader had 2 big hits against this Mets team. As I mentioned, he's batting .600 against the Mets right now. It's despicable. The Mets were outscored so far in this series, just in 3 effing games, 21-6. The Mets have not mustered any offense whatsoever over their past 5 games. No matter when they were in Cincy in the batter's box, now in another batter's box there in Philadelphia. I get it, they have pitching talent. Let's not forget about this. But let's also bear in mind that you are in 2 of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all baseball, back-to-back series, and you've done nothing with it. A prime example of how inconsistent and how hair-pulling this Mets team has continued to be throughout the course of the 162. And early on, Clay Holmes allows bases loaded because Bader with a single, Schwarber with a walk, Harper with a hit by pitch, JT with an RBI single, then Kepler with a hit by pitch that makes it 2-0. Horrendous. This second inning, what do we see? A clean inning. Then we get to the third inning, clean inning. We get to the fourth inning. What do we see? The Mets make it 2-1 with the Marte single. Nothing else offensively. In the fifth inning, we see Brandon Marsh, who's been red hot against right-handed batters, rip his 22nd double of the year. That makes it 3-1 Philadelphia. Then after that, Max Kepler smokes a single to make it 4-1 Philadelphia. Right after Gregory Soto comes in for Clay Holmes' final line to be egregious and not looking good. Donovan Walton even had an effing RBI before this ball game ended. You guys remember Donovan Walton? That was that infielder signing that David Stearns made in the offseason and spring training and was traded in a minor league trade with the Phillies earlier this year, and now he comes out and actually produces something against this Mets team, because of course he does, before the ball game ends. He was the final batter to drive in a run in this ball game, if I'm not mistaken. Outside of that, at the bottom of the sixth inning, what do we see? More of this Phillies offense. A JT hit by pitch, a Marsh single makes it 5-1 Philadelphia at the snap of a finger. Mind you, Gregory Soto stepped right up and meet batting practice. Max Kepler torched the Mets today in every aspect. Max Kepler, the same sorry Max Kepler that looked like more of a DFA candidate potentially for the Twins to want to keep than anything else. The Phillies bring him in, and he's torching the Mets now. He's having a red-hot second half to this point. That was a huge single that made it 7-1. Otto Kemp, because it's Otto effing Kemp. I know you didn't know who Otto Kemp was a month ago. Now you know. He makes it 8-1 with a sac fly as Ryan Stanton comes in, because if the Mets are not giving up runs right away when their new pitcher comes in, they're clearly doing something wrong. Cue the effing sarcasm. In the seventh inning, we see more of the same. Bryce Harper hits a bomb, his 25th this season off of Stanek. We then get a Juan Soto bomb in the eighth. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. 39th bomb of the year. Love that, Juan. I love your 95 RBIs. I love your 39 home runs. I love your 31 stolen bags. What I don't love is everything else about this Mets lineup right now. Max Kepler smokes a home run, his 16th of the year off of Ryan Helsley. And where did Ryan Helsley place that pitch, everybody? Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this shit show. Let's take a look together, class, just to give you guys an idea of how bad things have been for Ryan Helsley, how much they continue to be, and just how incompetent this man is. Even in garbage time, Ryan Helsley has been garbage, as much as it pains me to say. Look at it with me, everybody. Look at this pitch placement. You go ahead and you tell me, who do you think's more at fault here? Is it Ryan Helsley, or is it just Max Kepler being a red-hot batter? I'm going to go on the limb and say when you throw 100 miles per hour middle, and a smidge inside to a lefty batter who already had 2 to 3 hits in this ball game, that, by God, they're going to go out and smoke more baseballs. That was demolished off the bat, 112 off the bat by Mr. Max Kepler, and that increased the lead at the time, 10-2 Philadelphia Philly lead. But it doesn't just stop there, because as I mentioned, we would see another run come in for this Phillies team as Donovan Walton with a ground out after a wild pitch makes it 11-2. Bader strikes out, but not before the Phillies are up a whopping 11-2 in the ball game. The Mets get a little stupid rally going in the ninth inning like they've typically done lately. You know what, guys? We lost by 6, 7, 8 runs, but it's okay because we had some fight in the ninth inning. We're going to get the job done. Miss me with that nonsense. Miss me with that BS. Beatty with an RBI single that drove in earlier that we saw in that ninth inning. And Hayden Senger. Mullins was ultimately stranded on base as Juan Soto flies out to end the ball game. The Mets go on to again lose this one by an absurd final score of an 11-3. The Mets, over the past north of 3 months of baseball now, have been playing 10-plus game below 500 ball. When I continue to tell you guys that this Mets team has looked bad more than they've looked good this year, everything about that has held true. Regardless of the fact that this team is 6 games above 500, has been the same effing story on every single night. If it's not the pitching, it's the offense. If it's not the offense, it's the pitching. Or today, let's just meet the Mets where everyone is not getting the job done outside of Juan Soto. Disgusting. And Juan Soto, who is finally heating up. How long has Juan Soto been red hot, everybody? He's been red hot for 2 months. How bad has this Mets team been the past 2 months? Horrendous. One of the worst teams in baseball. Is there a correlation between Soto's success and the club lack thereof? No. The correlation is that the Mets are finally getting the guy that they spent $765 million on, finally getting him looking like himself consistently, and the rest of the team is saying, you know what, bro? You got it. They are giving him the DeGrom treatment from an offensive point of view. We thought, oh, Jacob DeGrom not getting run support was one thing. How about Juan Soto not getting team support when he's carrying this club consistently? consistently. Mark Vientos, up until today, has been having a clutch hit what feels like every single game for a month and a half on end, and yet has meant little to nothing for this club. With the spurts of brilliance from the Nimos, the Alonsos, the Lindors, they're in and out. The bottom of the order has been dog water. Everything about this club has been dog water. I just want to throw this effing mic. Sounds like another day that ends in Y, and it's only Wednesday. I got the rest of the week to cover this Mets team. We have Jacob deGrom on Friday. This Mets team has been struck out 12 effing times in the past 4 days. 12 times by one starter in 2 of the past 4 games. The Mets have not been struck out 10 times or more at all until 4 days ago. It's happened twice already. They look like shit. And the worst part about it is that where is the immediate solution? They're trying to do everything. They're bringing Jose Siri back finally after Buddy had his broken leg all year. They're bringing Acuna to get more playing time because they just want more of that base running element on the bags. They're trying to get creative here with their rotation, but nothing's working. If you're not going to score when the kids give you competent ball, what are you going to do? Because you're not going to score when your veterans give you incompetent ball and give up early runs. But when, again, Noah McClain goes 5 innings of one-run baseball, you were nowhere to be seen against Aaron Nola and his 10 ERA over his past 6 effing starts entering that ball game. Brennan Sproat in his Major League debut doesn't allow a single hit in 5 effing innings, and you give no run support for him against, while I will say, is a dominant and nasty Hunter Green. The point still stands. Joe Nathan gives up just 3 measly hits, goes 6 solid innings for you, and you have nothing to show against Brady Singer and what we see in the rest of that effing Reds team. Scott Barlow, you couldn't even get enough done outside of 1 effing run. Ugh. Moon Shadow, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. Wardy, this contribution is for you to buy a 12-pack on me. Moon Shadow, I thank you so much. I'm not going to use it to buy a 12-pack. I'm going to use it to buy something that'll help me with my health. I'm going to do it to get liquid IV. I'm going to do it to get vitamins. I'm going to do it to make myself feel better because I literally feel like I am death at the moment. Like, I feel terrible. My body is aching. I don't feel good. This team is weighing on me heavily in more ways than one. I've had a throbbing headache for 3 days in a row, and it's went in direct to him because of how bad this team has been playing. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but it's true. I've had restless nights as of late because I've been doing my content for you guys late and grinding videos and then drop early the next day, if not the following day. And between that, just for this team to play dog, you know what, baseball, as much as they've been, has really been uninspiring to get up each day and do everything that I'm doing. But I will do everything in my power to allocate these dollars for the better to help my mental health and my physical health, because that is what I need more than anything, Moon Shadow. Thank you so much for that donation. I appreciate that. Let's see. The damn game, you can turn the damn game off. You have to watch and report. Sorry, man. I appreciate the fact that you're wary of that. A lot of fans don't seem to understand just how difficult stretches like this are for someone like myself. It's not that I can't do it. It's not that I'm unfamiliar with doing it. I've done this for 5.5, 6 years now. No one understands the daily grind of covering a Mets baseball team on the daily more than myself. And I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm saying that as a fact. No one has been in my shoes to the degree in which I have been to do this every single day. And I can tell you, as someone who has been through every high and every low with Steve Cohen and this Mets team since he became owner, I can tell you that this has been, without a doubt, one of, if not the most draining season that I've ever covered because of the expectation not being met, but this team still playing decent enough to be in the playoff mix the entire step of the way. That is why we have hung on to hope. That is why we have not completely boxed out this team. And that is why every single night gets more difficult than the last when this team goes out and gives you fool's gold or goes out and gives you literally nothing to be happy about. That has been the case for what not only feels like the past 5 days, for what feels like the past 3 months now. And when you look at how the Mets have lost games this year, it's been so obvious that they have been not losing just, oh, we're just dropping a series here and there. They lose games for an entire week. They lose games for north of 2 weeks in a row. It's not just one thing. It's not just this or that. No, the Mets lost 15 of 18 games in the first half of this season in a stretch. 15 of 18. You know how bad that is? You know how many good teams never do such a thing in a season? Then you mean to tell me you lose 14 of 16 after the break? Around trade deadline. Are you kidding me? You have a losing skid after adding at the deadline? You play some of the worst baseball after adding at the deadline? Are you joking? Now you're on a 5-game losing streak? How many losing streaks have the Mets been on this year? They've been on far more losing streaks than they've been on winning streaks. The Mets can't win more than 2 games to save their life. The Mets have not won 3 games in a row since that Phillies series. Prior to winning 3 games in a row, they hadn't done it since when they swept the San Francisco Giants towards the end of July. They've had nothing. Nada. Zip. No recipes, working knives, and not just one thing. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to all of our members right now. Thank you so much to everyone watching live and a replay. I really do appreciate that. Continue to hit that like and subscribe button. Do not hold back. Help us get to 300 plus likes for our live and recurring viewers. It really does mean a lot. And tell me exactly how you're feeling from all your key takeaways for the Mets faltering the fashion that they did tonight. Let's go down the laundry list here real quick, everybody. 11, great member. PB9, great member. How we doing? Rebecca, great member. Camp, great member. Dave Kaplitz, I know is in here somewhere, great member. Moonshadow, again, great member. Steve Long, great friend and member in here. How we doing, my guy? Going up the list here even more because I know we have plenty others in here. So any member that I missed, please don't take it personal. I'm just trying to play catch up. Juliet, great member as always. We got all you guys in here. Thank you again. Camp, great member. If I didn't say him already, going up the list here. I know we got a couple more of you guys too, especially from earlier. Alvin, great member. How we doing in here, my guy? Thank you so much for being in here, Alvin. D-Mac, I'm sure, is in here somewhere, even if he's lurking. Dave, the same applies. I'm sure if he's just lurking. All you guys, all of my members, all of my new subscribers, all of my reoccurring, I greatly appreciate every single one of you. And here's the other thing. Someone's saying in the chat, oh, it's over? It's not over. That's kind of the problem because it's not over. The Mets are 2 games up in the wild card right now. It's not over. It's going to be heart palpitations. It's going to be pounding tums for the next 2.5 weeks. It's not going to be over for this Mets team until the very end. But you know what, guys? It can get closer and closer to being over with the way this team is playing. They've lost 5 in a row. They get swept in Philadelphia tomorrow. I really just don't understand or see a world where this team is actually going to be getting themselves in a position where they can get on a run of any sorts. Can they do it? Sure. Will they? Why should I believe that they will? And the writing is on the wall. It's been on the wall, like I've said, for literally months on end, as painful as it is to say. Maybe you guys need another McDonald's Happy Meal character. We do. Here's the thing. We were hoping that Elmo was going to give the vibes because Elmo helped throughout first pitch along with Big Bird at Citi Field a couple weeks ago, but even he can't get the job done. Even the stupid antics when we love to do our little rally. I don't have it beside me. Where is it? I don't have it beside me right now. That's a sign. That's such a clear sign. My lobster that I usually show on the live stream to each and every one of you. For those that don't know, we do a little rally thing where I have this metal lobster that I usually put on as like a wall decor. I use in our post-game jingle as a reaction to celebrate because at least that's something funny, silly, and light that kind of is going with the vibes of things going right for the team when things are going right. But we haven't been able to do that all that much this year because the vibes have not been right. They've been bad. They've been so down horrendous. And I can sit here and tell you about every single individual statistic on what this Mets team is doing wrong, and I will certainly highlight some of them, no doubt. But the matter of fact here is that what we have been saying has been all the same. It has been all the same. It has been the story of their season. Now, let me double check because there's a couple people that I want to just see here if they threw out any notable numbers that I think are important to relay to each and every one of you. My God, it's just so bad. It's so bad. I'm literally looking at this graphic and I want to check my phone. Best records in Major League Baseball. You see that? Remember that? Remember when the Mets had a good record in Major League Baseball? I know it's probably not going to focus for you guys, but this is when the Mets were 44-24. I wish the Mets started this season north of 10 games below 500 again. I wish that this Mets team played 500 baseball in the first half. I wish. That's all I have at this point. The reason why I wish this is because if the Mets played 500 baseball the first half of the season, the expectations, while they're not being met, are not the end of the world yet either. There's some concern, there's some frantic things going on, but there's also people starting to doubt the team that think that they're not going to be anything special this year. A lack of expectation is what this Mets team can do to take advantage of. With expectation, and we have said this, how many times with expectation this team has been horrendous. The Cincinnati Reds are currently winning 2-1. That's just fantastic, right? And that's in the 8th inning against the Padres because the Padres have been choking so much that we have seen as of late. Didn't they just choke to the Reds yesterday too? I don't know who won between the Padres and the Reds yesterday. Honestly, it might have been Cincy. Let me actually double check the wildcard standing. Might give me a greater idea. The Reds, the Reds must have beat the Padres yesterday. They did, because I know they rallied back in the 8th or 9th inning, and here they are doing exactly that. Top of the 8th in San Diego, a Padres team that's very good, even though they've struggled a lot with their overall play as of late, and they are losing 2-1 right now in the top of the 8th inning. So that is what's happening for the San Diego Padres. You're about to potentially get swept by the team you're chasing for the division, while losing 2 out of 3 of the team chasing you for the last wild card. What sad bunch of pretenders. I couldn't have said it better. Exactly. Everyone wants it more than us. Everyone wants it more than us. I think that's a great takeaway as well. Nothing about this Mets team says that, oh, we want it more. 32-46 over a past stretch of games. Horrendous. The Mets are 32-46 since being first in baseball with the best record in baseball. Since being the best, they have been one of the worst. The Mets have literally been a bottom 3, if not bottom 4 team in all of baseball since that time. Again, what about this team should have us sold that they're going to do anything at all? This could potentially be worse in 2007. It's getting closer and closer to reaching that point of being just as bad. It's in that realm for sure. For sure. It's horrendous right now. Ay, Dios mío. My God. I know Padres choking. Just wait till they get to Citi Field. And once they get to Citi Field, they're going to do anything but choke. They're going to take easily 2 out of 3 against the Mets team at this rate. Not that I hope it. Not that I wish it. Just the matter of fact of how everything has been trending with this team to this point. I got nothing else, guys. I'm shot. I'm cooked. Just like this Mets team, I'm cooked. I got to go do a recap video for Bleacher Report now to drop in the AM to tell you guys all about just how much this team sucks right now, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you guys would like to check out that video, it's not going to be at all really about breaking down this ball game, as it's going to be everything about just the continued flaws with this team in a summarized fashion across 2 to 3 minutes. Check that out. Also, be on the lookout, everybody. Tomorrow, I'll be dropping a video at some point. It might drop a couple hours before the game, so it might not be dropping in the AM. Just wait and see for it. It'll be a combination of my latest segment in studio, because I was in Manhattan today, there with the New York Post again with my guy Brandon London. I've been really appreciating my recurring segments there, and it looks like that's going to continue to be the case, which is very exciting as well. So once we kind of have more information there, I will most certainly relay, but things have been on the up and up, which I'm very grateful for with my friends at the Post. Really appreciate all the opportunities they've given me. So I'll show you guys a bit on that, because a lot holds true from what I said in studio today that is holding true to this point, between Shamania's struggles, how heavily reliant the Mets are on their young starters right now, their inconsistent play, how we can't trust a guy like Ryan Helsley, among others. So there's a lot to take away from it, and I'm going to give you guys a summarized fashion of that video, paired with other key topics that we're going to get into in tomorrow's content, separate from our post-game show. So be on the lookout for it. I don't know exactly when that video is going to drop on YouTube, but I'd imagine anywhere from, say, 12 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern, in that range. Just be on the lookout for a new video. Even if it drops a couple hours before post-game, it's still going to be relevant, because before the game starts, so I promise you, regardless of what the Mets do or don't do tomorrow, everything is still going to hold true from what we discuss. Their struggles have still been mounting. A blowout win tomorrow is a great step in the right direction, but doesn't change the effect of all the damage that they've done the past calendar week or so. So be on the lookout for it, guys. Thank you again kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way out. As I mentioned, please help us get a 300 plus likes to all our live and recurring viewers. Help us get a 35,000 as well. Really does mean a lot. And thank you, Levin, again, for trying to be the voice of Mets fans. I do my best. I know that I'm definitely emotionally erratic. I know that I'm most certainly all over the place. But having said that, I also know that I do my best to just be unequivocally myself, and it's clearly resonating with a good contingent of fans for obvious reasons. So I'm doing something right. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. P had an interview with the New York Post. I saw that as well. One asked about struggles. He mentioned injuries, but zero to do with lack of performance. I was confused listening to him say only that. Listen, love Alonso. Nothing against the guy. If you think Alonso's going to say anything that is more than cookie cutter basic answers and the heart of them playing bad baseball right now, I have a bridge to sell you. There's little to gain from an interview like that at this point in the season, as Alonso, as is, doesn't really give the media anything to run with in the sense of actually showing honesty, because his honesty has been more of the optimistic type no matter what. He's the same guy to tell you, even when you're 10 games below 500, that we're still going to make playoffs. I love the positivity. I love the optimism, but we would also like accountability. We would like actually to make note of the continued struggles with the club where he himself is factored into, because Alonso's been on an island what feels like more often than not the past 2 months. He's been clutch with runners to scoring position, which I appreciate, but he has not been that red hot hitter that we saw in the first 2 months of the season whatsoever. So Alonso, not shocked to see that. You're not going to get these counter remarks out of certain players, one, nor are you going to get them at this point of the year when they're playing their worst baseball. It just is not going to happen. It's common sense. It's not like he's hired the way that Aaron Boone is hired to go on weekly segments with John Boy, even if it's against his will, because he's getting paid to do it. One, it's paired with MLB, and he knows he's supposed to get kind of hard-hitting questions and has to be able to answer them in a proper fashion, where he actually has shown some realistic answers. You're not going to get that from a player, especially one who has never been known in the media eye to really call it different than what we know base level of what's going on with the club. It's going to be nothing more, nothing less, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate it. I'm out of here. Hope you guys have a great night. Try to enjoy your night. Please do it by trying to ignore this Mets team. I'll see you